So thank you for tuning in to Grief Intelligence. I am Kyra, and I just didn't feel like going in the house just yet. So I'm sitting in my driveway, just thinking. Today I'm thinking I want to talk about sympathy versus empathy. I was talking to my brother last night, and he mentioned a conversation he had with our father some time ago. And, you know, Daddy spits out that wisdom, and sometimes you get it, and sometimes you got to go find it. And he said something to the effect of goldfish and people being just alike. When my brother asked for clarification, my father's response was that you see goldfish in their own bowls, and people are the same, existing in their own bowls. And I thought about this grief journey. We do it ourselves, hoping that other people will come alongside us, but a lot of times they don't know how. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine a few weeks back, just thinking about pulling, these videos together and what I wanted to accomplish by doing them. And she said something to the effect, referring to a scripture, and the scripture says, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. And first, let me say that she had firsthand intimate experience with grief by the loss of her husband. And, people want you to get through it when they want you to get through it because, again, it's very uncomfortable, right? And so she made the observation that maybe it's taking a long time to get through because she has to do it by herself, or doesn't necessarily feel like anybody's come alongside her to walk through with her. And when I think about the difference in the words sympathy and empathy, and we throw those words around quite a bit, sympathy is about understanding the feeling. You feel bad for somebody when something happens. I'm so sorry that you lost so and so, or, something to that effect. But empathy, it makes us go deeper. It makes us stand in their shoes, look through their eyes, feel what they feel. We actually share the experience. And a lot of times we stop at sympathy. We feel bad. We understand those are terrible circumstances and we're sorry. We feel bad. But empathy, when you put yourself in a position to align with that person and truly recognize like where they are. Wow, right? I remember one of my coworkers' husband was killed in a car accident. And when I heard the news, I was processing and I'm like, wow, they're really close. And my first, thing was, oh, I know that's difficult for the family. And I just sat there at my desk just thinking about their relationship. And I began to put myself in her shoes. They've raised these children together. They have, been best friends for these many years. And the tears just began to flood. And my heart just ached because I was going beyond sympathy and I was empathizing with her. Because more than I know that this is hard for the family, I just felt like my chest caved in for her because I was feeling or trying my best to understand what she must be feeling at that time. And I wanted so much for that little piece that I felt to relieve her pain, even though I know it couldn't, but I was empathizing with her. And so that's a major difference. I was, reading online, like how do you differentiate those two? And there were three levels of empathy I had never heard of. One is the affective empathy, and that is your ability to respond appropriately. For instance, you go back to work and everybody knows that you just experienced a loss. But instead of sympathizing or trying to figure out the right words based on your relationship with this person, based on them needing to get through, you may just hug them. You may not say anything. Bringing them lunch and not hugging them if you think the hug might set them off. But that is more of the affective empathy. Somatic empathy is when you feel what they feel. For a person who lost, like for instance, one of my former supervisors, she said, I know what it's like to lose a niece or a nephew. She could feel what I felt. That's a different type of empathy. And then the cognitive empathy is understanding that person's response. So a lot of times, we can get sensitive or upset when someone responds a certain way, right? Yesterday, I was with my great niece and nephews. They are, again, twins, a boy and a girl, 3 years old, and a 4-year-old who will soon be 5, a boy. And the twin boy, he was having a meltdown because his dad went out and didn't take him with him. And I could have been all, we're not making all that noise and, being very firm about, you need to stop crying and sit down and, all of that. But it flooded me like it was like a blanket laid over me. And it says he's missing everybody. And these children who don't have the words, we adults barely have the words. These babies don't have the words to express what they're thinking, how they feel about their mommy being gone. And it just went all through me. And I said, do you want to sit on my lap? And he said, yeah. So I cleaned up his face and I sat him on my lap. And I just rocked him. And I kissed him in his forehead. And I told him how sweet he was. And I rubbed his leg and I rubbed his arm. And so understanding where he was in that moment was a turnaround for both of us. He stopped crying. It calmed him. And the rest of the evening, it was like we had a different bond because I saw him, even though he couldn't tell me. And I think that's very important to remember with children. They don't always have the words, but they still feel very deeply and they do have their own thoughts. So that's enough about that. But I ran across some other things, just in reading. And one of them was something, Harvard related. And it was just talking about walking through the grief journey with people and some, do's, don'ts. One of them was to name names. If you knew that person, don't skirt around and try to avoid saying their name. A lot of times, there can be joy in just sharing whatever memory just hits you. But don't try to make the person who is grieving forget about it at that moment. I think that makes it a bigger moment because, as my mother said, you have to go through it. And so when you're avoiding it, it just prolongs the inevitable. You have to go through. So, name the names and don't be afraid to, just talk or be quiet. Because there are lots of times it's nice to just have someone sitting there who can be quiet without trying to entertain you or talk you out of whatever they think you're thinking or whatever. When there are no words, don't try to find them. It's okay. I think sometimes the best support is somebody who will just sit in silence with you. And not many people are very comfortable with that. So even the people who have offered that to me, whether I took them up on it or not, it meant the world to me that they were willing to just sit with me. Another thing on the list that comes to mind was not to transfer the burden to the person who is grieving or bereaved. A common thing that we all hear and have been guilty of saying is, let me know if you need anything. With many people in my family, we don't often ask, even when we're whole and healthy. So for the people who say that, it's like, you're not getting a call, right? I'm not going to be able to come up with something for you. Not right now. My mind is elsewhere. I'm not going to and for a while I'm not even able to come up with anything to ask you to do. But I tell you, the people who have stood out to me, and this is my experience, it's from talking to other people, it's the people who empathize, they put themselves in your shoes and they say, you know what? They need to eat, but I don't know what everybody likes. So I'm just going to say, hey, I want to bring you dinner today. What would you like? Or the person that says, hey, I'd like to see you. I just want to know that you're all right. If you'll allow me, I'll come. We can sit and watch a movie. We can sit in silence. It's whatever you need. But I just want to make sure that you're okay. It is saying, I realize you have several babies, so I'm just going to pick up a big pack of diapers or, whatever, because I know that these are needs that you have and I don't want you to have to worry about them. And so just being conscious of not transferring the burden, but empathizing with that person and suggesting or offering what you can, and then follow through. Please don't say something and then fall off the face of the earth. That's energy I just don't have to be disappointed, upset, or whatever else, or confused, or whatever. And another that we'll get into another time is avoiding giving unsolicited advice. That's a whole nother bag of worms. So I'm going to stop right here and just ask that you continue to like, subscribe, follow, share, and let people know that this platform exists. And I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.